Hello, and welcome to the Darby Creek Diaries. I'm Gail Thompson, and I'm back with a dun 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 5x7 shaker card. Here's a card that I practiced on because 5x7s aren't typically my thing. So I just did a plain card, but I think it's really cute. But then I got ambitious and decided to do a double interactive card with shaker and light up. I'm going to start off with making a little bit of texture in the background. Now this 5x7 obviously doesn't work in this 6x6 folder, so we have to do a little bit of work, but it's doable. I'm running it through, and then we come back, I just flip it over, and then I puzzle piece it. It'll just slip right in and catch, and there it's completely all the same and looks great. For this project, I'm using Trinity Stamps You Take the Cake die set, and you can do it's designed to do shaker cards, but it also has a light up for the Pear Blossom Press candlelight card. However, I didn't plan this quite the way I should have, so I'm using a different one of the Pear Blossom Press lights. I'm starting out, I did do the background texture first. It doesn't matter because I didn't really want those bumps to be quite as high. So running it back through is just fine. It tones down the dots. And there is the outline of our piece of cake. Now I'm going to just take some tear it tape and go around the edges so that we can put our shaker together and add the acetate, the, which will make the clear window. I am trying to edit this because I realize this is a little longer video than I normally do, and I hate for you to have to hear me yammer the whole time. So I will be clipping things such as you don't have to see me pull all the release tape off or the now I'm adding my acetate. I use heat resistant acetate, but you could use recycled packaging if it isn't all scraped up. Now I'm going to, the cake is a little fussy with its thin little lines, so I'm adding a little bit of double-sided adhesive to the back of this brown cardstock, which is going to be our icing, and it's super easy to do, and it die cuts beautifully, and that way you don't have to mess with tiny glue. Even though I have a fine tipped glue, it really is hard. So this way it just die cuts and everything's wonderful. You don't have any glue showing. It really is nice. So I'm layering up the rest of the inside of the shaker, and I'm going to run it through the die cutting machine, and you'll see just how it really does cut beautifully, just like butter. Now, you got to be kind of careful with the individual pieces because when, as you can see, you start pulling this off, it gets a little bit fiddly. So I have my pokey tool and I'm going around and I'm just very, very gently going to pull that away and see how thin those slice layers are. There we go. Uh, all the pieces came out, and so we are ready to, well, I have to get a little bit of that tape I used. I used some post-it tape to hold it down, and sometimes that does stick. So now I'm just getting the release paper off this. You can see how completely fiddly this would be if you tried to use glue. I'm having enough of a time just getting the tape off. There we go. I'm afraid to stop and edit this because for some reason my software is having issues. So every time I try to voice over it, it stops. So we're just going to keep it going. I'm going to inlay this exterior of the slice of cake. There we go. It just pops right in like a puzzle. And this adhesive is repositionable. So if you don't have it laying exactly the way you want, you can, you have a little bit of a window to kind of move it around. Now we're going to pull out the icing there and see, I felt like I needed, whoops, sorry, my head's in the way. I needed a little more space there. So I'm adjusting because I want my icing to be perfect, you know. And there we've got that all in, and you just press it gently and you're good to go. No oozing like you would from glue. And I'm just pressing it to make extra sure everything is in place. And then I'm going to add our top layer of icing. This is super easy. I know there's a lot of pieces, but it is pretty easy. Okay, so now we're ready to move on to the back, and we're going to do some three-dimensional foam strips. I'm going to use some super skinny ones and some that are a little thicker. You'll see I'm just placing these along the side because it's a waste. If you were to just do it in a big square, your shaker bits would just all fall to the bottom. So we're just going to keep it kind of close, but allow a little bit. And this up here, I decided, yep, don't want to do that. Don't want the shaker's bits falling and going up there. And I'm just taping this all around. And I will show you what it looks like all taped. So there's the start of it. Now we're going to do the candle. So the candle, I didn't measure the height of that. So this is where I wound up switching and using the other kind of light. But you just are going to glue, I glued the back together to make it sturdy. So I used two of the solid pieces. There you see the dies up on the right. Then I'm cutting the flame off. And then I'm going to add the yellow flame. And I'm just going to cut the bottom of that off. And I am so sorry that I'm cutting the flame off of the purple too. Um, I'm sorry that that's out of there we go, so that you can see. So I'm going to glue the middle part in, and I'm going to pick it up here in just a second. I'm kind of fiddling with it. There we go. I am so sorry. So there's what it looks like. And the pink pieces were supposed to, I was hoping they'd stay in the die because that is preferable. I will show you how that works later on with the fluffy frosting. But for now, I'm going to attempt the two that are there and just place that back in, and it'll just click in. And then I'm going to use my pokey tool to, and I don't know why I'm holding this long. And now we're going to try to get those two little pieces off of the die, and it seems to be sticking together, but there they are. Now the rest of them we're just going to have to piece. So I put a little dibby dab of glue in each one of the sections. And I'm just using my pickup tool from Trinity Stamps as well. And fortunately, each one of these is distinctly different. So it isn't too awful hard to get them inset back into the candle. I am going to show you though in a couple of minutes how to do it if you can keep everything in the die, because it really, I think it is quicker. There is the candle. So I'm going to add a little piece of gold vellum so that the light will have something to shine through. And I'm placing that on the back there so you don't see the edges of it. And there is our candle. So back to our cake. So now we're going to put the shaker together. Oh, I lied. We're going to put the light on. And this is a one light by Pear Blossom Press. I'll have everything linked below for you. And it's super easy to use. You just put the battery in. Positive is positive, negative is negative, just like Toy Story. And you're going to decide where you want it. The candlelight candle that the light I wanted to use was taller, and I couldn't very well put push in the middle of my cake. So that's why I traded off for this one. So I'm just sort of picking a spot where the light would shine through nicely and hanging on to it. I'm going to put I put a little hole there, and I'm using some strong double-sided adhesive so that I can place the light on the back. And use the pokey tool again just on the one side. And then it's like, where do I want my button to be? Because you have to, put a little push message somewhere. So I'm going to do it like that. And so now I know where I have to put my push message. Now this is where I am insetting the pieces that stayed in the die. And not all of them behaved, but a lot of them behaved. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm just going to slip this over and then use my pokey tool. And I can see where two of them did not behave, but the rest of them I'm just going to put into their spots. And I kind of lean it to the needle to the side because you don't want a bunch of pointy spots. And I just don't think it looks great. So now you peel off the excess and then see that my glue had dried. I tried to just use a little tiny glue so I didn't have a lot of ooze. And then the glue dried. So now I have to just put these back in the regular way. But it's really not that hard. And now I'm putting in the last those two pieces that were being cantankerous. I hope you're doing well today and that you have yourself a cup of tea or whatever your favorite beverage is, because I know this is a little longer than my normal tutorial, but there's a lot of information here and it's a lot of fun. And when you're done, you really feel like you've accomplished something. Off camera, I went ahead and die cut Happy Birthday and layered it up 3 times so that would be nice and sturdy. Then I also ran some matching paper through that dot folder. And now just to make it pop a little, I'm just putting a little tiny bit of picked raspberry distress ink just so it's not quite so plain. And because we have to give the cake something to sit on. And I didn't really have a plate die and I, you know, didn't want it really to be all that fussy. So now I'm just going to adhere this to the beneath the cake there. I wanted to try to get a lot of this done before I added the bulk of the sprinkles. So I've got out my handy dandy glue gun. This has a fine nozzle and then it has a little bit of a thicker nozzle, but I always seem to keep it on the fine nozzle. And then this just sort of slips right in. And then I'm just going to cut away the excess once I get it to what I feel is almost perfect. And I'm getting out my longer shears and trimming it off. we start getting into the fun part, adding all the decorations and the sprinkle and, well, the rest of the foam tape. But, there is that. So I'm going to go ahead and be super careful, and I'm just going to pour the sprinkles in. Some people take off the adhesive of that foam tape first. I think that I would wind up getting sprinkles stuck in my foam tape. So I went this route and left the release paper on, and fortunately these aren't terribly staticky. So I'm just trying to even out my sprinkles. It's so there is no good way to do this, or at least one that I figured out. So I wanted to size up the actual cake part of my cake, make sure it fit behind. And now I'm going to add foam tape all around to even it up. And also I'll put it around the battery part of our light. But first, I'm going to just do this part, one baby steps, rather than having all that foam tape all open at once. I'm just going to poke through and get everything ready, and then I'm just going to plunk our cake part of the cake just right there. I cut it just to be a little smaller than the 5x7 card, which I did trim down a little bit so that we'd have an edge later. There is our shakety shake. I wanted to keep everything kind of the same color as the confetti. So now I have made a little pencil mark, and now I'm going to put I believe it says push. Yep. I stacked a few of those up, and there. It's not exactly discreet, but I couldn't stick it in the cake. Now we're going to add all the decorations, and my candle is ready to rock and roll as soon as I get my fluffy pink icing on. And I got it so I can still see the light. Yep, I saw the light. I'm sorry, very old song. Um, Anyway, we're going to glue that. I didn't put any foam tape on it. I just didn't want any more bulk. So I'm centering my flame over the hole there so that I could be sure it would work out. And I'm going to make sure it's straight with my Pear Blossom Press T-square, which is super handy. And I'll show you a little more about that in a little tiny bit. So I glued the edges down, and now I'm going to position the sentiment, and I'm going to use this part of the ruler. It'll center it and it'll show you the thirds. So that's just one thing that it does. So I lay it down, but I still pick it up and glue it. I mean, I just wanted to make sure I was in the general vicinity. I mean, this isn't engineering. We're crafting. So it's not an exact science. It might be for some people, but it's not for me. I have to be exact all day long at work. If you don't know, I design kitchens, and everything, up to a 16th of an inch has to be right. So there is our sentiment, and we have shakety shake, and we have light. So now all we have to do is attach it to the card base. But first, we need to do some more foam tape. Now, this is from Mama Elephant. This is super. I don't use foam tape very much. So this is old. But I will tell you, the best foam tape is from Amanda at Pear Blossom Press. Actually, it's called the world's best foam tape. Unfortunately, she's having some supply issues right now. So we're all making do the best we can and hoping that it will get resolved very, very soon. But until then, I mean, it's not like I don't have a ton of this stuff to get rid of. I also have a Simon Says roll of thin foam tape that it's like a foot and a half wide. So I think I'm good for foam tape for a while. But the world's best foam tape, the release paper comes off and it's repositionable, which most foam tape isn't, like this foam tape isn't. So, yep, we're hoping. Then the little tiny place, I could have done slivers of foam tape, but I just got out and doubled up some pop up dots because I just thought that would be easier and possibly a little neater. And I have them right here at my desk. Now we're going to use some more tear it tape and get everything ready to put our card on the card base, or at least on the next layer, and put that layer on the card base. I'm pretty generous with tape. I'm pretty sure this card will not fall apart, but I just keep taping. So there's a lot of tear it tape there. By cracky, that ain't going anywhere. But it also is not repositionable. So once we get ready, then here we go. Here we go, guys. The dun 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 dun. So I do have to trim off the top. It is a little too tall, but hey, that is easy peasy lemon squeezy. So now we're going to do a little frame around that because I really wanted some more color. And so I'm getting out my Pear Blossom Press T ruler again. She's got two. One's for A2s, one's for A7s. I'm going to do the 1/8 inch border. So you flip it over and you line it up. And then you just slide your other sheet in there. But I didn't add glue. So we got to do that. And, you know, if you don't add the glue, then you have to pick it up and do it again. So I'm just adding some glue off to the side. You could also use double-sided adhesive if you like. I tend to use liquid glue because it tends to be a little more forgiving. And I'm trying to get this in view for you because this is really a neat ruler. Amanda and Jen Gross worked on this for a couple of years. So now look, everything lines up absolutely perfect. Yay! I would have eyeballed it. You guys know me. I'm an eyeballer. So then we're just going to add the next layer. Now this is a little harder because I'm layering it on a layer and I've got all that foam and all that and the things underneath don't maybe line up exact. So I'm lining her up and shifting it just a hair, but it's not, but that I really do recommend the ruler and they're not expensive. And I'm going to glue this here. Now my hair gets in the way, so it blurs the camera, so we're kind of done. My camera, I've got issues with that too. I love to craft, but I'm not much of a techie. So here's our project. It shakes, it lights up. It's really, really a happy card, and it's still not done. I decided that it looked kind of plain, so I'm going to add a few little bigger sprinkles to the top. These are also from Trinity Stamps. And these are nice because they're little clay discs. They don't add a bunch of bulk and they're matte. So everything doesn't have to be all blingy. So really, really cute. And I have so many embellishments and I just feel like I need to use them. So let's see. I think I need one more little spot, But do I? Oh, well, okay. Let's do one here. I hope that you are, if you're not a subscriber, you will consider subscribing. It really means a lot to me. And here is our card. So much fun. And if you have hung out with me this long, I really, really thank you. I will be back soon with a totally different card. I hope that you enjoy this and give it a try. And there is the my original card that I made. Please follow me, like and subscribe, and tell your friends. And until next time, I have a ton of inspiration and playlists at my YouTube site. Bye bye.